At night, a 10-second mistake can return with the force of an alarm. A sentence said too loudly, a name forgotten, a hand gesture that felt wrong the moment it happened. The room is gone, the other people have moved on, but the body reacts as if the event is still occurring. This is not simply memory doing its job. It is the mind trying to solve a social problem after the evidence has disappeared. Most people call this overthinking. In psychology, the closer term is rumination, repetitive, difficult to stop thinking about distress, its causes, and its possible meaning. Rumination can look productive because it feels analytical. The mind revisits the scene, changes the wording, predicts what others concluded, and searches for the exact point where the outcome could have been controlled. But a thought repeated many times does not become more accurate. It often becomes more convincing. The strange part is that embarrassment usually has a tiny audience. A person drops a cup in a meeting and remembers it for years. Everyone else may remember only that the cup fell, if they remember anything at all. Yet the person who dropped it can reconstruct the room, the silence, and the heat in their face. The difference is not that one person has better memory. The difference is that one person had something at stake. Human beings depend on other people for safety, support, information, and belonging. Social rejection once carried practical danger, especially in small groups where losing trust could reduce access to food, protection, or cooperation. Modern embarrassment is not proof that every awkward pause is ancient survival machinery. That claim would be too simple. But social evaluation still recruits systems that monitor threat, attention, and status. A blush can be small. The nervous system reading behind it is not. The first mistake is assuming the replay means the moment was important to everyone else. It may only mean it was important to the person who experienced it. A social error becomes mentally sticky when it leaves uncertainty behind. If someone says, "That was fine," the scene has an ending. If a conversation ends with a pause, a glance away, or no reply, the brain receives no clean verdict. It keeps searching. The replay is often less about the past than about the missing conclusion. That is why a compliment can sometimes be forgotten by dinner, while a vague look from a co-worker can survive for months. Praise gives a clear signal. Ambiguity creates work. But memory itself makes that work harder than it appears. When an embarrassing scene returns, it can feel like a recording. It is not. Memory is reconstruction. The brain rebuilds a past event from fragments whenever it is recalled. The reconstruction may preserve central details well, but it can change tone, sequence, certainty, and meaning. A remembered face can become colder. A pause can become longer. A harmless remark can acquire an edge it did not have at the time. This does not mean every embarrassing memory is false. It means confidence is not a reliable measure of precision. Repetition can strengthen the feeling of familiarity, and familiarity can be mistaken for truth. The scene feels detailed because it has been rebuilt often, not necessarily because it has been preserved perfectly. There is another distortion. The spotlight effect is the tendency to overestimate how much other people notice and remember our appearance or behavior. Researchers Thomas Gilovich, Victoria Medvec, and Kenneth Savitsky studied this by having students wear a conspicuous shirt into a room. The students expected more people to notice it than actually did. The point was not that nobody notices anything. The point was that each person experiences life from the center of their own attention and assumes others are watching from the same position. They are not. Other people are usually occupied by their own unfinished scenes. They may be replaying a comment, a hesitation, or a mistake that barely registered for anyone nearby. Two people can leave the same room, each convinced that everyone noticed their private failure. This explains why embarrassment feels so isolating. It is a public emotion built inside a private model of other minds. The model has almost no direct data, so it fills the gaps with prediction. And prediction is where the loop gains speed. The brain is not only a storage system for the past, it is a prediction system. It uses prior experience to estimate what may happen and what actions might avoid harm. After an awkward moment, the mind may simulate future conversations. It may prepare an apology, a defense, or a better line. In small doses, that process can be useful. It can help someone notice a pattern and repair a relationship. But the same process can become trapped when there is no new information to test. The mind asks whether everyone thinks badly of you. It finds no answer. Therefore, it runs the scene again. The second run produces anxiety, and anxiety is treated as evidence that the problem matters. Therefore, the scene runs again. The loop is not driven by a hidden truth. It is driven by a prediction that cannot be completed. This is why trying to force a thought away often makes it louder. In a famous line of research on thought suppression, psychologist Daniel Wegner asked people not to think of a white bear. Avoiding the thought required monitoring for the thought, which kept it active. The mind had to check whether the bear was present. The check brought the bear back. Embarrassment works similarly. Do not think about the presentation becomes a scan for presentation thoughts. Do not replay the conversation becomes a test of whether the conversation has returned. The attempt to establish mental control can become the mechanism that maintains attention. But this does not mean the answer is to surrender to every thought. The useful distinction is between having a memory and conducting an investigation with no evidence. A memory can arrive without permission. The next move has more room for choice. Instead of asking whether the scene proves something about your worth, it is possible to ask what concrete fact is known. Perhaps a message was sent, perhaps an apology was made, perhaps nothing actually happened beyond a moment of discomfort. If there is a repair to make, it can be made once. If there is no new action available, the remaining work is not problem solving. It is uncertainty tolerance. That phrase sounds passive, but it describes a skill. Uncertainty tolerance is the ability to remain without a complete answer while resisting compulsive attempts to obtain one. In this case, the missing answer is usually impossible. Exactly what another person thought, how long they remembered, and whether the moment changed their view of you. The mind wants a verdict. Social life rarely provides one. The pressure increases at night because the environment changes. Tasks end. Messages stop. The body is less occupied by immediate demands. Attention has more available space, and unresolved concerns can enter it. Fatigue may reduce the ability to redirect attention. This does not mean nighttime thoughts are more insightful. It means fewer competing signals are present. A quiet room can make a weak signal sound urgent. The body contributes as well. Embarrassment is not merely a judgment in words. It often includes a rush of heat, tightened muscles, shallow breathing, or an urge to hide. Those sensations become part of the memory. When the scene returns, the body may recreate part of the original response. Then the body state is interpreted as confirmation that the memory is dangerous. This is a feedback loop. A remembered event produces discomfort. Discomfort makes the event feel significant. Significance calls the event back again. The interruption point is often physical before it is intellectual. Slow breathing will not prove that a memory is harmless. It can reduce the alarm state that makes the memory seem urgent. Changing posture, placing attention on a neutral sensation, or naming objects in the room can do something similar. These are not tricks for deleting a thought. They give the nervous system current evidence that the original moment is not happening now. That distinction matters. The goal is not to win an argument with the memory. The goal is to stop treating a past social signal as a present emergency. There is one more reason these scenes endure. Embarrassment can threaten an identity claim. Someone who sees themselves as competent may replay a mistake at work. Someone who sees themselves as kind may replay a blunt remark. The pain is not only that the event happened, it is that the event appears to challenge a story about who they are. This is where rumination can disguise itself as moral seriousness. The mind says it must keep reviewing the event because caring people learn from mistakes. Sometimes they do, but learning has a recognizable shape. It identifies what happened, extracts a specific adjustment, and stops when no further adjustment is available. Rumination has a different shape. It returns to the same question with more punishment and less information. The difference is not how bad the thought feels. The difference is whether it changes what can be done. A useful test is to ask whether the next minute of analysis could produce a new action. If it can, write the action down in plain language. Send the clarification. Practice the skill. Set a reminder. If it cannot, the mind may be trying to purchase certainty with attention. It will not work because attention is not evidence. This is not an instruction to dismiss every painful memory. Persistent rumination can be associated with depression, anxiety disorders, trauma-related conditions, and obsessive-compulsive symptoms. When thoughts become overwhelming, interfere with sleep, or create urges to harm yourself, professional support is appropriate. A licensed mental health professional can help distinguish ordinary self-consciousness from a pattern that needs treatment. But for the ordinary midnight replay, the central correction is smaller and stranger. The memory is not returning because it has reached a final judgment. It is returning because the mind has not accepted that some social questions remain unanswered. The dropped cup, the wrong word, the unread message, the laugh that may have meant nothing. Each can become a closed courtroom inside the mind, with no witness allowed to leave and no verdict that satisfies the judge. But the event may never have required a verdict in the first place. At night, a 10-second mistake can return with the force of an alarm. What remains uncertain is whether the alarm is warning of danger or only proving that the room has become quiet enough to hear it.
Reality is hiding something. Carefully research stories for the incurably curious. Come, look closer. Subscribe to keep finding what's hiding in plain sight.